Hey guys, so I'm doing a quick series where I highlight my pregnancy journey, the different trimesters, how I knew I was pregnant, what it was like after I had Naomi, just the whole nine. So I wanted to dive right in and start off with how I knew I was pregnant. So I got off the pill, and then shortly after, like a couple months after, I was waiting for my period, and my period is never late, like almost to a fault. I almost get it too soon, if that makes sense. So I was a little, I don't know if nervous is the word, but I've always joked that I don't think I'm somebody who could like plan to get pregnant. I think it would just kind of have to happen to me because the concept is just crazy. And now that I've actually gone through it, I feel even more confident about my perception of it. So I have a few different symptoms that I experienced. I don't know if it's going to be the same for you. I can't stress that enough, but this is just my story and what I went through. So the first one is that like my scalp had this like crazy itchy like tingling feeling, and it wasn't like, oh, like I just need to wash my hair, like, oh, what, like whatever it is that like when you're in the sun and it makes your scalp itch. No, it was like all over my entire scalp, and it was just like so itchy. And I specifically remember my mom telling me that when she was pregnant with me, she had like this crazy itchy scalp. So that was like my first red flag. The next one, obviously, it was that, like I said, my period was kind of late. And then also like in my lower abdomen, I had this like pulling, stretching feeling that was like a really mild cramp almost. Like it wasn't something that I had to take medicine for, but it was just kind of all day, every day. And I started Googling, and it was like, oh, if you're feeling a pulling, stretching feeling, like it could possibly be like your uterus expanding, preparing for the baby. So like that freaked me out. So finally I bit the bullet and went and got a test. I waited until I was like a week late. Like if I'm a week late for my period, like it's run for the hills, it's a big deal. So had never been that late for my period before. Went, took the test, and we were pregnant. And little did we know we had our little Naomi already on the way. So it was so cool. But yeah, those were some of the biggest symptoms. It was weird. Like I didn't have, some of the things that people get, like the nausea and all that type of stuff. For most of my first trimester, I mean, it was literally the first 8 weeks. And I was going to the doctor and I was telling them like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but like I haven't had any nausea, like at best a little queasiness. So I was kind of like, is everything okay? And then also, back info, I had spotting, which made me really nervous because a lot of times, you can't really Google spotting without hearing about the different like possibilities and like what it could be like a reflection of or whatever. But at the same time, it was kind of encouraging because plenty of women, even my mom, said that they had spotting their first trimester, and my mom went on to have 4 kids, and there's a ton of us. So I knew that it was something that like I had to kind of keep like a positive head about. But at the same time, I was just a little nervous because, you don't expect to see blood anywhere, right? Like when you're pregnant, it's like a break from a period forever. So it happened on several occasions, if that's encouraging. It also even happened in my second trimester, and I called the doctor every time. And they were actually really great about it. They'd bring me in, I'd have an ultrasound, we'd check. And so I actually got to see the baby like really early, which was so special because, we were in a pandemic at the time. So everything is kind of different right now. But it was just so encouraging to be able to get that reassurance. So wanted to put that out there because I feel like for some reason spotting isn't something that I heard about from anyone in previous pregnancies, and I think it's really important just to get that kind of full range of information. Another thing that I want to touch on is I developed a fibroid, grew that thing like from the onset of the pregnancy, and didn't have it before. If I did have it, it was too small for any previous doctors to catch it. So I want to point that out because it was a significant part of my pregnancy. I can't say that it caused like a whole lot of pain or discomfort necessarily. It was more so like the actual fibroid. It was kind of how it affected the other organs in my body. So one of the things that I had to deal with was actually urinary retention, because basically what would happen is prenatal vitamins, which is another thing I didn't know, can really make you constipated. And just kind of like the change in your hormones and all that type of stuff. So if you can imagine the location of my fibroid, which was pretty big, I don't know what size it is now that I've had the baby, but it was located midline, so it was like dead center, kind of squished up in between like my bladder and my other organs. So it kind of just got really sticky because it was as my bump grew, the fibroid and those other organs down there had less space. So it was like this science of like my body figuring out like, okay, it's time to do number 2 or it's time to do number 1. And that actually was really frustrating because I just felt like I had to be so thoughtful about what I ate and what I did, and that carried on for basically the duration of the pregnancy. So I say that to say that fibroids don't have to be the end of the world. One of the biggest implications is that because of the location of the fibroid, there was a sensitivity from day 1 that I most likely wouldn't be able to do a vaginal birth, which I was really bummed about. I'm like the fakest hippie ever. So in my mind, I was like, we're gonna do a home birth and we're gonna have Naomi like at the house and it's gonna be really zen and all that stuff. And as soon as I started hearing like anything that was out of the scope of what I thought we could handle, I was like, no. So that was a bummer. But the good thing is at least I found out about it really, really early on. And that was, you know, kind of a comfort for me, if you want to call it that, because I was able to start mentally preparing for what it could be like, just in terms of not having the delivery that I had planned. So I think emotionally, mentally, like that was kind of taxing, but at least they presented it with the possibility that the fibroid could pull out of the way as my uterus moved up, as my belly bump got bigger. So there are all these different things. I was like, okay, let's see what happens. And obviously I ended up having a C-section, so it wasn't on the cards for me. I think another thing that was really, really big was like cravings. Like people have all sorts of cravings, and you hear about like the pickles and ice cream and all that type of stuff. My cravings weren't like that. My cravings were literally like lime on everything, watermelon, I can't even eat melons in regular life. Like I'm allergic to them. Unfortunately, it sucks because I love them. But I was like drenching everything in lime, and my little sister was quarantined with us at the time, and she would always be like, Chels, like easy on the lime, like, and I'd be like, what? I can't even taste it. So it was just really funny because it was like literally like I couldn't get enough of it, couldn't get enough of fruit, wanted to work out, literally like crazy. Like I just had this like, I don't know, it was just this weird set of like preferences and everything. So it was kind of like a cool time. Also, I coincidentally watched a video right before I got pregnant, and it was these 2 OBGYNs sitting down, and they were giving like 22 myths to pregnancy or something like that. And one of the things that they highly recommended was like, as soon as you start your day, have water with lime and lemon, or whatever combination of citrus you want, but that acidic kind, like lemon and lime. And they were like, it's the best way to cut the nausea. So I did that like all day long, just sip lemon, lime water. And I, you know, like I said, I didn't have a lot of nausea. I think it was just my story, but it definitely helped. Also, my little sister ordered me these Preggy Pops. They're like these sour, they're basically sour candies. You can find any candy that's sour, I think will do the trick. I sucked on those jokers all day long, and I think that that was a huge help as well. So like I said, I don't think I'm the best reference for nausea because it wasn't a huge part of my pregnancy. It was more so like kind of queasiness that progressed to nausea, but I didn't have a whole lot of vomiting, thank God, because I was too busy with other things. So another symptom that I had in my first trimester that kind of spilled over to my second as well is like these really bad headaches. So one of the things that I read and heard is that symptoms that you experience either during your period or really regularly, there's a possibility, it's not guaranteed, that you might experience those same symptoms when you're pregnant, and it'll be exaggerated because everything that's happening to your body is kind of like an extreme version of what you go through, for me at least, in regular life. So just want to plant the seed for that. If there's certain things that like are difficult or that like, you know, you've had a tough time with, potentially that could be something that kind of shows up you know, when you're pregnant. So anyway, that was the first trimester. Like I said, it was definitely super easy at the onset, and then it just took like a hard turn and I was laid out. But anyway, that's the recap for that, and now we'll go on to the second trimester.